Tell a man he is free, and something subtle begins to decay, not immediately, not dramatically, but slowly. With no resistance, urgency fades, desire dulls, direction weakens. When nothing pushes back, the human mind relaxes into comfort, and comfort breeds inertia. But place a barrier in front of him. Tell him something is unavailable. Tell him a door is closed. And suddenly, effort appears. Not because the goal changed, but because resistance awakened the ego. Human beings are not moved by logic. They are moved by friction. Machiavelli understood this before psychology tried to make human behavior sound polite. He observed that people act not to maximize happiness, but to protect autonomy, pride, and status. This is why directness fails. When you ask directly, you threaten independence. When you beg, you reveal need. When you explain, you lower your position.
The people who shape outcomes do not ask. They do not plead. They do not chase. They design reality so others move exactly where intended, believing it was their own decision. This is not manipulation. This is understanding human nature. And once you understand it, you cannot unsee it. What follows are 13 Machiavellian laws of reverse psychology, not tricks, not games, but psychological structures that bypass resistance and redirect will. But listen carefully. If you attempt to use these laws while your emotions are unstable, while you crave approval, while you fear rejection, they will destroy you. Because reverse psychology only works when you do not need the outcome. This blade cuts both ways. Let us begin.
Law 1. The illusion of choice. The strongest desire of the human ego is control, not control over others, control over itself. The moment a person feels forced, they resist. Even if the idea is good, they reject it simply because it wasn't theirs. This is why commands fail. The amateur gives orders. The strategist offers choices. Machiavelli understood this clearly. If you want a specific outcome, you never force the path. You design the options. You give 2 doors. One door leads exactly where you want. The other leads somewhere slightly worse for them, or somewhere they don't want to go at all. They feel free. But the destination was decided long before they chose. Think of a child. If you say, "Go to bed now," the child fights, he argues, he resists. But if you say, "Do you want to go to bed now or in 10 minutes?" he chooses 10 minutes. He feels in control. He feels victorious, but he still goes to bed. Adults are no different. They just hide their resistance behind logic and language. In negotiation, never say, "This is the deal." Say instead, "We can move forward now and secure this price, or we can wait and revisit it later when conditions change and the price goes up." Then stop talking. You remove pressure. You give them the feeling of authority and autonomy. Their pride is protected, their defenses drop, and almost every time they choose the option you prepared. You are not forcing them or acting as a dictator. You are not dominating them. You are simply designing the environment and acting as the architect of the landscape. They believe they chose freely, but you built the roads ever before they started walking in it. Law 2, the forbidden fruit. Nothing attracts the human mind more than what is restricted. The fastest way to create desire is not to offer something. It is to block access to it. When people feel their freedom is limited, something instinctive wakes up. They don't think, they react. They want what is scarce. They want what is denied. They want what they're told they can't have. This is why trying to convince people usually fails. If you want someone to obsess over an idea, don't promote it, don't explain it, don't push it, restrict it. Frame it as something exclusive, something risky, something not meant for everyone. If you want someone to pursue you, don't make yourself fully available. Availability kills desire. Common things are treated casually. Rare things are treated with respect. So you create a barrier. "I don't think this would work between us. This isn't for most people. You probably wouldn't like this." Notice what happens inside the listener. Their curiosity spikes. Their ego tightens. They feel challenged. The moment someone hears, "You can't," their mind responds with, "Watch me." Now they are no longer passive. They are trying to qualify themselves. They work harder to earn your attention than they ever would have if you had asked for it. By disqualifying others, you reverse the power dynamic. You are no longer seeking approval. They are seeking yours. You are no longer the seller. You are the prize. Law 3, strategic surrender. Most people argue because they want to win. They want to prove they are right. They want to dominate the conversation. The strategist does the opposite. The strategist is willing to lose on purpose, temporarily. Here's why. When you push against a stubborn or aggressive person, you create resistance. The harder you push, the harder they push. It's human nature. If someone feels attacked, their mind shuts down. Logic disappears. Ego takes control, so instead of pushing, you step aside. Machiavelli understood this well. Sometimes the fastest way to defeat an enemy is to agree with them first. When someone attacks your idea, don't defend it immediately, don't explain, don't argue. Instead, calmly agree. You're right, that's a fair concern. Yeah, this plan is risky. You can even take their argument further than they did. Maybe we shouldn't do it at all. Maybe staying exactly where we are is safer. Watch what happens next. They were ready for a fight. They expected resistance. But now there is none. This confuses them. Their momentum collapses. They lose balance. And suddenly they start arguing against themselves. Well, I didn't mean we should do nothing. I'm just saying we should be careful. Without realizing it, they begin defending your position. By removing resistance, you force them to fill the silence. And people hate imbalance. They will say whatever is needed to restore it. This is psychological judo. You don't overpower them. You let their own force work against them. True, reverse psychology is understanding this. You don't always need to drive the conversation. Sometimes you take your hands off the wheel because you already know the road is curved exactly where you want it to go. Law 4, the void of silence. We live in a world addicted to noise. Everyone is talking, explaining, justifying, defending themselves non-stop. Because of this, silence has become rare. And anything rare becomes powerful. Silence makes people uncomfortable. It scares them. When you explain yourself, you give away power. Every word becomes information. Information can be analyzed, questioned, twisted, and used against you. The less you say, the more intimidating you appear. Silence works like a vacuum. Ask someone a question. They give you a weak answer, a half-truth. Now stop talking. Don't rush to respond. Don't fill the awkward space. Just look at them and wait. What happens next is predictable. The human mind hates silence. It panics in it. They start thinking, did I say something wrong? Do they know something I don't? Are they judging me? To escape that tension, they talk. They explain more than they planned. They reveal details they didn't intend to share. They correct themselves. They negotiate against themselves. All because they want the silence to end. Silence is not empty. It is pressure without direction. When you stay quiet, others feel exposed. They feel watched. They feel evaluated. And eventually, they crack. Learn to let silence sit in the room. Let it grow heavy. Let it do the work your words never could. Because the one who speaks the least often controls the most. Law 5, the mirror of narcissism. Everyone believes they are the main character. People are not listening to understand you. They are listening to hear themselves. They are searching for confirmation of who they already believe they are. This is why logic rarely changes people. Your reasoning does not matter to them. Your facts feel foreign. If you want to influence someone, stop trying to convince them. Instead, reflect them. Mirror their words. Mirror their values. Mirror their energy. But here is where the real power is. Do not mirror who they are now, mirror who they want to be. Everyone carries an image of their ideal self. Strong, smart, fair, loyal, dangerous, when necessary, good when it counts. If you treat someone as if they already are that person, something happens. Their ego locks in. You become the mirror that shows them their best version. And people get addicted to that feeling. Say things like, "You strike me as someone who values loyalty." You're too intelligent to fall for something like that. you don't seem like the type who cuts corners. You're clearly a risk-taker. Now they are trapped. If they act against that image, they damage their ego, so they behave in a way that proves you right. If you say someone is fair-minded, they will concede to appear fair. If you say someone is principled, they will act principled. Not because it is logical, but because their identity is on the line. You didn't argue, you didn't persuade. You let their vanity do the work. When you reflect someone's ideal self, you control their behavior without resistance, because people will sacrifice logic to protect their ego. Law 6, the you probably couldn't challenge. This is the most dangerous law of all because it attacks the ego at its weakest point, competence. People can tolerate rejection, they can tolerate failure, but they cannot tolerate being seen as incapable. When you want someone to do something difficult, do not beg, do not persuade. Do not offer rewards. Challenge their ability quietly. Say things like, "This might be too complex for your team. I'm not sure this is in your wheelhouse. I was going to ask you, but the risk might be too high. I don't want to overwhelm you. Notice what you did. You didn't insult them, you didn't provoke them, you sounded concerned. But their ego hears something else. You're not good enough, and the ego cannot accept that. The moment their competence feels questioned, a switch flips. They feel their status under threat. They need to prove you wrong. They will take on the workload. They will accept the risk. They will push themselves harder than any reward ever could. Not because they want the task, but because they want their superiority back. This is why this law is dangerous. Used clumsily, it sounds like an insult. Used aggressively, it creates resentment. But used subtly, it feels like protection. And protection is much harder to fight than attack. You appear to be saving them from failure. Meanwhile, they exhaust themselves trying to prove they never needed saving. The ego will destroy itself just to restore its image. That is the power of this law. Law 7, the anxiety of freedom. People say they want freedom, but most of them don't. Total freedom is not exciting, it's overwhelming. When there are no limits, no boundaries, no resistance, the mind freezes. Too many options feel like standing at the edge of a cliff. This is why freedom creates anxiety. When you tell someone, do whatever you want, I don't care, you are not liberating them, you are unsettling them. In relationships, this dynamic is easy to see. The person who constantly checks in, demands updates, and needs reassurance is the weaker one. They are afraid of losing control. The person who says, go out, have fun, do what you like, holds the real power. Why? Because total permission removes rebellion. If nothing is forbidden, there is nothing to push against. And without resistance, excitement dies. But there is something even deeper happening. When you show no fear of loss, you signal security. You show that you are not dependent, that you have options, and that is unsettling. Now, the other person is no longer thinking about the freedom you gave them. They are thinking about why you gave it so easily. They start wondering, why isn't this bothering them? Why aren't they afraid to lose me? What do they know that I don't? They stay close, not because you demanded it, but because your indifference made distance feel dangerous. True control does not come from restriction, it comes from being comfortable with letting go. And the person who needs the least often holds the most power. Law 8, false weakness. Sometimes the smartest move is to appear less smart. Machiavelli understood this well. He wrote that it can be useful to appear slower, simpler, or more naive than you really are. Here's why. When you appear sharp, confident, and flawless, people feel threatened. Their guard goes up, they compete with you, they look for ways to expose you. But when you appear slightly confused, slightly flawed, or unsure, something changes. People relax, their defenses drop, their ego expands. They want to help you, they want to correct you, they want to teach you. Say something simple, like, I'm not sure I fully understand this. Can you explain your approach again? Watch what happens next. In their eagerness to prove they are smarter, they start talking. They reveal details. They explain their strategy. They show their hand. And without realizing it, they underestimate you. This is one of the greatest advantages you can have. When people underestimate you, they stop protecting themselves. They make mistakes. They expose weaknesses. Let them think they are in control. Let them believe they are the cat playing with the mouse. Because by the time they realize you were never weak, you are already in position. There is no greater advantage than being underestimated. Law 9, constructive pessimism. We live in a world obsessed with fake positivity. Believe in yourself. You can do anything. It will all work out. Most of the time, this is just noise. Sometimes, the fastest way to motivate someone is not encouragement. It is honesty. When someone says, "I don't think I can do this," most people rush to say, "Yes, you can." That usually doesn't help. Instead, agree with their doubt. Say, "You're right. This is going to be extremely hard." Most people would quit. It might not even be worth the pain. Something important happens here. First, you validate their fear. You don't dismiss it. You don't pretend it doesn't exist. That creates trust instantly. You become the only person not lying to them. Second, you awaken the fighter instinct. By describing the challenge as brutal and unforgiving, you make the goal feel meaningful. If something is easy, failing feels embarrassing. If something is nearly impossible, failing feels normal. But succeeding becomes heroic. People don't want easy victories. They want to overcome something real. Stop treating people like children. Stop handing them safety tools and calling it courage. Point to the mountain. Tell them they probably won't make it, and watch what happens. They don't walk away, they lean forward. Because deep down, people want to prove they are stronger than they think. Law 10, the implanted idea. The most powerful idea is the one a person believes they discovered themselves. If you tell someone what to do, it feels like a command. Commands trigger resistance. But if you guide them to the conclusion and let them say it out loud, it feels like insight. And people protect their insights fiercely. This law requires patience. You don't push the idea. You don't explain it fully. You don't force a conclusion. You plant seeds. You ask questions. You point out problems without offering solutions. You let silence do the work. For example, you might say, "It's interesting how our competitors are reducing costs lately. I wonder what they see that we don't." Then you stop. You don't explain. You don't continue. You let the thought sit. Their mind starts working in the background. They connect the dots you quietly laid out. Later, they come back with the idea. "I've been thinking," they say. "We should probably restructure our budget." You agree. You nod. You praise their thinking. You do not take credit. You do not say, "I told you so," because credit is expensive, and control is worth far more. Let them feel like the leader. Let them believe the idea was theirs. As long as you are the one guiding the direction, it doesn't matter who wears the crown. The real power belongs to the one who whispers the decrees. Law 11, the contrast principle. The human brain cannot judge things on their own. We only understand value by comparison. Something feels expensive only when compared to something cheaper. Something feels reasonable only when compared to something extreme. This is how the mind works. If you want a specific request approved, don't ask for it. First, start with something bigger, something unreasonable. For example, "I need you to stay late every night this week to finish this project." They react immediately. "No way, I can't do that." You pause, you soften. "Okay, I understand. Could you at least give me 2 hours tonight so we don't fall too far behind?" Now watch what happens. Compared to every night, 2 hours feels easy. It feels fair. It feels like relief. They agree. If you had asked for 2 hours first, they might have hesitated. But because you anchored the conversation at an extreme, the middle ground feels like a gift. They believe you compromised. They feel they won. But the truth is simple. You defined the battlefield before the discussion even started. Always anchor high. Let the extreme absorb the resistance. That way, the outcome you actually want feels safe, reasonable, and generous by comparison. Control is not about asking better. It's about framing first. Law 12, controlled incompetence. Doing something too well can be a trap. If you fix the printer once, you become the IT person forever. If you are always responsible, you carry the load until you burn out. If you never fail, you inherit every problem. Competence attracts work. Reliability attracts burden. This is especially true in relationships, workplaces, and hierarchies. Sometimes, the most strategic move is not to perform perfectly. It is to fail deliberately, to be slow, to forget, to do the task just poorly enough that no one asks you again. This is controlled incompetence. It forces others to step up. It protects your time and energy. It filters out responsibilities that do not serve your real goals. This is not laziness. It is prioritization. Do not become the hero who saves everything. Heroes get used. Let a few plates fall. Let a few problems remain unsolved. Because people rarely notice your value when everything works. They notice it only after something breaks. Sometimes the sound of breaking glass is the only thing that reminds others how much you are carrying. Law 13, withdrawal. This is the final law. And the most powerful. Human beings value what they might lose. You can be intelligent, you can be charming, you can be skilled. But if you are always available, you are taken for granted. This is not emotional. It is economic. Supply and demand applies to attention, presence, and validation. If you feel ignored, undervalued, or taken for granted, do not complain. Do not explain. Do not argue. Withdraw. Pull back your energy. Reply slower. Say less. Cancel a plan. Reduce enthusiasm. Create absence where your presence used to be. This sudden gap creates panic. Did I lose them? What changed? Why do they seem fine without me? They feel the void, and they rush to fill it. They reach out, they overcompensate. They suddenly recognize the value you added, only after it is gone. But there is one rule you must never break. Do not withdraw with anger. Anger is noise. Anger is need. Anger is need. Anger is a tantrum. Withdraw with calm indifference. That sends a clear message. I am okay without you. And that message is terrifying, because the only person who commands true respect is the one who does not need it. Pause here, because once you understand this law, you stop chasing validation. And when you stop chasing, others start following. As you listen to this, you're probably thinking about how to use these laws. On your boss, on your partner, on people who have power over you, you're imagining the strings you could pull, but you're missing something important. Why do you feel the need to control them in the first place? Because deep down you feel out of control. The urge to manipulate does not come from strength. It comes from fear, fear of being abandoned, fear of being ignored, fear of not mattering, fear of other people's unpredictability. You want to use reverse psychology as a shield, as a way to guarantee outcomes in a world that gives no guarantees. And here is the paradox. These laws only work when you do not need them. The moment you depend on them, the moment you use them out of desperation, they fail. True influence comes from stability, from not needing to force results, from being okay with outcomes you cannot control. The person who uses these laws best is the person who could walk away without them, and that is where the real power begins. Think about it. The person who is truly detached, truly secure, who genuinely doesn't care whether they get the deal or the relationship, naturally follows all of these laws. They don't try to. They are scarce because they have a full life. They are mysterious because they don't overshare for approval. They let others choose because they aren't afraid of being rejected. They don't chase. They don't force. They don't explain. The techniques you're learning are only copies of that mindset. If you use these laws as tricks to make someone love you, to make someone respect you, to avoid losing them, people will sense it. Neediness has a smell, and it's impossible to hide for long. You cannot fake detachment. Eventually, the mask slips. That's why the deepest form of reverse psychology is not used on others. It is used on yourself. You must train yourself to stop needing the outcome, to be okay with losing the deal, to be okay with walking away, because the moment you no longer need the result, you become powerful. And that is when everything begins to shift. You must build a life so full, a mind so strong, and a purpose so clear that rejection no longer hurts you. It becomes information, not a wound. When you stop needing approval, something strange happens. The world starts paying attention. When you stop chasing applause, people begin to chase you. So, here is your task. Do not try to use all 13 laws at once. If you do, you will look unstable. Pick one. Pick the one that makes you uncomfortable, the one that scares you. Maybe it's staying silent. Maybe it's pulling back. Maybe it's agreeing instead of defending yourself. Try it once. Watch what happens. Watch the reaction. Watch how the tone of the room changes. Watch how the balance of power shifts. You will feel it. The moment when the energy moves from them to you, and in that moment, you'll realize something important. You were never weak. You were just playing by rules that no longer apply. You are not late to this understanding. You are right on time. The world is a chessboard. Most people are pawns, moving blindly, reacting only to the square in front of them. They don't see the pattern. They don't see the game. It's time you stopped playing like a piece and started thinking like the hand that moves them. If you're ready to stop being a spectator in your own life, if you're ready to understand the language of power spoken quietly, strategically, in the shadows, subscribe to the channel. We don't teach you how to fit in, we teach you how to rise above the board. I'll see you in the next video. Don't let them see you coming. See you in the shadows.